It's not often that you'll end up seeing Call of Duty acknowledge either a mistake or a course of action that wasn't super loved by the fans, and even more so when it's basically printing the money. But surprisingly, they chimed in on a situation that may surround the sentiment that you have with the games as of recent years, so today we're taking a look at that. Drop your thoughts as we go along, drop a like if you enjoy the video, and make sure to subscribe for more Black Ops 6 and other FPS content. I'd love to have you in the community. For now, though, let's get into it. So one of the biggest things we've seen since, well, likely Black Ops Cold War, maybe even Modern Warfare 2019 with the crossovers that began with the Haunting and Verdansk event, was this descent into sheer crazy cosmetics. From camos or blueprints, which I think started relatively normal, but with a twist and operator skins that fit thematically to a degree that we have now in recent years of like a giant chicken or a full-blown flaming dragon knight or a ninja turtle. The Ready Player One effect has been coming to Call of Duty in a progressively more aggressive fashion over the last couple of years. That reception has been on the decline for a while now, where you could be anywhere on that spectrum of caring. Perhaps you still don't, which is great if you don't. Like, I'm glad you're enjoying everything, totally fine in that right, but perhaps you're also so sick of it you don't want to play. I'm sure that most of us probably fall somewhere in the middle on varying levels of care. Like, for me, it's not my cup of tea. I'm not buying all these crazy skins, but I'm also not necessarily too bothered by it, whereas maybe you are a bit more annoyed to see these kind of things. But no matter what way you spin it, there's a handful of people that are like, I don't really care for this anymore. Whether, again, actively not buying it or caring in the sense of I don't want to see it. But that's where you might be in luck, because it was claimed by insider The Ghost of Hope after the Season 3 launch that Activision and Raven Software are excited with the numbers they've seen for players returning and playing Warzone after the launch of Verdansk. The update has exceeded expectations. Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Store numbers are apparently off the charts compared to what they were. They have even seen an uplift in Black Ops 6 sales and downloads because of this update. And then, for this sort of discussion about cosmetics, they said they are talking about showing more restraint with Warzone for skins, bundles, and microtransactions. Crossovers are printing money, but they hear the criticism that the game is starting to look stupid. So we can dissect this a little bit, but starting here with the topic of cosmetics. Showing a bit more restraint, I think, is a great thing to hear personally, but one thing that was a follow-up to this that we have to mention was there was an interview with IGN given by Raven where they talked about things around Season 3's launch and the reception of it. Things like time to kill, if any future adjustments would be made to casual battle royale, and more, but one portion of the discussion came in the way of cosmetics, where this time it was a bit demoralizing to the topic perhaps, where Raven told IGN they did not intend to restrict crazy skins in Warzone, stating, part of that was respecting players' purchases. We could have restricted weapons and operators, but then it creates this big friction moment for players. I know some players might have more of a stance on it, like I want it to be pure milsim, but the spirit was to make it welcoming for all players, in relation to sort of talking about a refresh of some kind, bringing Verdansk over into the equation. Now, knee-jerk reaction back to back with what we just talked about, how they're listening and hear that feedback that people don't like it too much. This might sound contradicting a bit, but the way that it reads, I think, when you look at it a little further, is just confirmation of nothing like a skin filter being added in the future. Nothing necessarily in regards to altering the future of how things are handled, but basically no immediate plans to alter the now versus reassessing and seeing that we'll take a look at the air quote stupid things as they dubbed into consideration and seemingly changing those in the future. So with those things in mind, though, what's the likelihood that we see something change soon? We have to think forward thinking for sure, because best case scenario, I'm not expecting this to have any effect until like maybe Black Ops 7, because when we take a look at the game development and how things work, game dev isn't something that happens in a day. Content, and of course contractual obligations to deliver said content, is managed months in advance. I would not be surprised in the slightest if all of the skins and collaborations are at the very least planned, if not in the works, or are finished from now until the end of Black Ops 6, Season 5 and Season 6. Usually when I've chatted with devs in the past, especially within the Call of Duty space, they're usually about those 2 DLC or 2 seasons ahead on content, finalizing in this case things like maps and maybe zombies maps along with that, VO and other things that go along with it, the finishing touches for things probably outwards of Season 5, if not already starting on Season 6. That way, deadlines can be met, QA can be given builds, the whole 9 yards that go into making the experience something that is polished or at least as polished as it can be for the time that a game sees its seasonal update launch. Of course, that's something that we always see bugs in the game as of updates, but in terms of the content itself, it's in a presentable state and ready to ship out. But considering that, I'm thinking again, best case, we start to see things kick off in a different direction thematically and cosmetically in Black Ops 7 later this year and whatever their post-launch year of support has in terms of content. And maybe that even may be an ambitious hope. I do think that one thing that I'll give, say, Infinity Ward thinking further out past COD 2025, whatever Infinity Ward's next game I think does have the sort of prime potential to bring us back to a more grounded state. I've said a lot of things about my frustrations with that studio and their handling of, say, Modern Warfare 2 and feedback from the community, but one thing that I will always give them praise for is their art team kills it every single time. Joel Emsley and his team are some of the absolute best in the business, and they're pretty set in their we're gonna do as much milsim as we can ways. Now, Modern Warfare 2 did have some stuff that I think did kind of push the boundaries, but I think that was probably likely due in part to crossovers that were starting at that point with the 2.0 era, and the pressure of pushing more cosmetics that then you saw it stray a bit. But Modern Warfare 2019 was the prime example of what I think of, where even post-launch, you saw most of the cosmetics still being believable, even if they added in things that were a bit more flashy and like blueprints or so. But operators were relatively all still grounded, everything up until, again, about the Haunting of Verdansk event. That's where they kind of let loose, and historically speaking, that's where you started to see things let loose a bit more, was the later seasons. Seasons 4, 5, or 6 or so, about over 6 months into the life cycle of the game. But here's the thing, I still think that if you want to carry these crossovers and air quotes print money, you can absolutely still do that, but you can make them thematically cohesive. I mean, just this year alone, off the top of my head, I could think of you could do crossovers with A24's Warfare, Ballerina from the John Wick universe, 28 years later. I mean, how cool would that be? A zombies cult classic with a zombies mode in Treyarch's titles. That's just perfect. But then you also have other things that aren't necessarily just like directly one-to-one that would make sense, like things that focus on weaponry, espionage, assassins, things that fit a Black Ops game, like Havoc, all action, all shoot 'em up. The Accountant, assassins, and a little bit of Black Book work there. I think that Day of the Jackal would have been a great crossover that would have been sick. Hell, I think that even Reacher could have been a great crossover thematically too. A bit more borderline on that one, but still, the action, bang bang, guns a-blazing type of thing. And that's just off the top of my head. I'm sure that between movies, TV shows, and the like, you could find so many solid thematic crossovers that, again, would still print money that wouldn't make as much sense as playing like the Ninja Turtles or something like that. So there's definitely ways that I think you could handle this, and I think that could be a better approach that would still be very profitable. But then I guess dissecting the other part of this here, just as a quick mention, because we haven't talked about this recently, is the additional good news of numbers being air quotes off the charts. As a fan just of the game, of course, I want it to do well, and I'm very happy to see that so many people seemingly are enjoying the game. I have heard raving reviews about Warzone and people's interest in coming back to it. A lot of the things they changed gameplay mechanic-wise, the introduction of Battle Royale casual. There's stuff that brings people back that if you just don't want to play that sweaty playstyle or whatever that you may be used to from the last couple of years, it's changed enough of the dynamic that it's interesting again, at least to a degree. And honestly, whenever they say the numbers are off the charts, I do actually kind of believe this. I know the initial criticisms are going to be, but Steam Charts says it's still under 100,000 players a day. Which, if you only look at that in that context, yeah, maybe you have a point, that a 20% increase in players month over month at that point may not seem like a boom, but if we're serious with each other, that's a terrible marker of comparison if you leave out all the other factors. I'm not saying these numbers are just for COD, but as a roundabout way of explaining how much larger the ecosystem is than just Steam Charts. Do you remember a little while back we talked about how it's kind of crazy that COD is still on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One consoles, but then when you dig deeper on that, you realize, oh, it was reported last year in April that the monthly active consoles for PlayStation was a dead even split of PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4, both at 49 million users a month. 97 million monthly active consoles, and then you consider the fact that even in February, the second lowest number in player counts for Steam Charts displayed in the last year and a half, Call of Duty was still the second most played game on PlayStation, according to Circana, who isn't just some random that ends up posting stuff. That's their entire thing, is industry trend tracking and analytics. Even if just 1% of consoles, of those monthly average consoles, played Call of Duty, you're looking at just under 1 million players in that same second worst performing month on Steam. And then if you want to even get a little bit more, like, okay, maybe it's a 0.5%. That's still just under 500,000 players on one platform. And that doesn't include Xbox consoles or BNet logins, because honestly, I'd also wager on PC there's a ton of people still on BNet for PC who never made that jump, myself including, because Black Ops 4 through Vanguard was only available on PC on BNet. It was exclusive at that point. It didn't come back over to Steam until Modern Warfare 2 and the Warzone 2.0 era. So numbers-wise, the best we can accurately take away is an uptick in trending numbers. So if 20% is at all an accurate representation of the rest of the platforms and people coming back, that's a hell of a lot of players returning for Verdansk. Obviously, the biggest question is, will it stay? And that's something that we can't accurately guess until next month. But personally speaking, I think the changes made to bring the game back to a more minimalist perspective has been wildly refreshing. And I also do think that the lack of big map support since Modern Warfare 3 launched, I mean, you had Urzikstan and added with that, but just nothing was done with that big map BR except for one update with the DNA bomb storyline in Season 3 that altered some POIs that was then reverted with the launch of Black Ops 6. You really didn't have anything in the way of actual battle royale. It was just resurgence, which so much of anything gets boring. And so having a whole year of one of those two main offerings just entirely neglected, it's refreshing to end up having that experience that is akin to the original. It's not quite the original, of course, because you have Omni movement and some other things like that, but it's the closest we've been probably, I think, to the original, which is what I feel like a lot of people wanted. So, roundabout way of saying, cool, nice to see that the numbers are reported to be larger and increasing here at this, which, as just, again, a fan of the game, I'm happy to see it doing well. But anyways, that's where we're going to wrap it up. Two cool things I think that were announced here as of recently for Season 3 and the future of Black Ops 6 and Call of Duty as a whole. But let me know your thoughts down below. What do you guys think of this? Do you like the sound of these cosmetics kind of going back to a more grounded, more realistic approach to things in the future, perhaps? Are you happy to see that the game seemingly is doing well in terms of player counts and people enjoying the game? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor, drop a like on it. Of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 6, Warzone, other FPS content. I'd love to have you guys in the community. For now, though, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care, and peace.